The inventory screen flickered again, and Beverus resisted the urge to slam her chitinous fist against it. Numbers did not lie, even when you desperately wanted them to. Food synthesizer efficiency, down to 42%. Medical supplies, 23% remaining. Heat regulation, cycling every 6 hours to conserve power. She clicked her mandibles together, a nervous habit from her homeworld that meant nothing here on Refuge Station Delta. 7 up behind her, through the scratched plasteel window of the control room, she could see the children huddled in the common area. 47 little beings from 12 different species, all orphaned by the Rim Wars. All depending on her to keep them alive. All slowly realizing that the galaxy had forgotten them. Pip pressed her small, furry face against the observation window, breath fogging the cold surface. The 6-year-old Quillen had stopped asking when the next supply ship would arrive. That hurt worse than the questions. Children should ask questions. When they stopped, when they accepted that no help was coming, something precious died inside them. Administrator Beverus. Rena's scaled hand touched her shoulder carefully. The 14-year-old Vashtor had appointed herself as older sister to the younger children, a role she took seriously. Too seriously for someone who should still be playing games and learning about her own culture. The little ones are asking about the gift ceremony again. Beverus turned away from the screen. What gift ceremony? They heard stories from the medical supply trader who came last month. He mentioned stations closer to council space that receive visits during the cold season. Beings who bring presents and food. They want to know when someone will come here. The translator built into Beverus's communication device struggled with the concept. Gift ceremony. Present bringing. Her species had no such tradition. But she understood hunger and hope and the dangerous combination of both. Tell them the truth, Beverus said quietly. No one is coming. Rena's eyes, large and golden with vertical pupils, reflected the dim emergency lighting. I cannot tell them that. One already barely glows anymore. Pip cries every sleep cycle. If they lose hope, hope for what? Beverus spread her forearms wide. Hope that the Galactic Council will remember one small refugee station on the edge of nowhere. They have not sent supplies in 3 months. Our distress signals go unanswered. We have perhaps 2 weeks before critical systems fail entirely. Through the window, when sat alone in the corner, the young Kelthrin's crystalline body pulsing with faint light patterns that Beverus had learned to read as sadness. Normally, Kelthrin children glowed bright enough to illuminate entire rooms. When barely managed a candle's worth of luminescence, the console behind them beeped. Beverus spun, hope flaring despite her cynicism. A response to their distress call? Council supply authorization? But no, just another automated system report. Heat regulation dropping to minimum safe levels in 6 hours. I will find something to tell them, Rena said, her voice carrying the weight of someone forced to grow up too fast. A story, something to get them through another night. Beverus watched the young Vashtor leave, her tail dragging slightly from exhaustion and malnutrition. They were all getting thinner. Even the species that could metabolize almost anything struggled when the food synthesizers produced half portions of nutrient paste that tasted like recycled air smelled. She returned to the inventory screen, calculating again. If she reduced rations by another 15%, if the synthesizers held together for another week, if no one got sick and needed the dwindling medical supplies, if 1,000 other impossible things aligned perfectly, they might survive until what? Until the council remembered? Until some miracle occurred. Beverus did not believe in miracles. She believed in logistics and resource management and the cold mathematics of survival. And those mathematics told her that Delta 7 was dying. In the common area, Pip started singing. A Quillen lullaby, soft and sweet, about warm burrows and safe warrens and families that never left. Other voices joined. A Vashtor harmony, a Kelthrin light pulse rhythm. Children from species that had warred against each other for centuries, now singing together because they only had each other. The console beeped again. Another automated report, probably. Beverus almost ignored it. But something made her check. Emergency distress beacon activated. Signal broadcast on all standard frequencies. automated response to life support falling below minimum safe thresholds. Her translator device buzzed with an incoming message. Text only, origin signature attached. Beverus read it once, then again, then a third time, certain her translator was malfunctioning. This is the cargo vessel Evergreen Promise responding to distress signal from Refuge Station Delta 7. We are altering course to render assistance. Estimated arrival in 4 hours. Please confirm life, support status, and number of individuals requiring aid. Beverus stared at the signature line. Human vessel. Earth registry. Deathworlder origin. Every species in the galaxy knew about humans. Barbaric. Aggressive. From a planet so hostile, it had forged them into something the civilized council species whispered about in frightened tones. They solved problems with violence. They took what they wanted. They were dangerous in ways that made peaceful species nervous, and one of their ships was coming here. To a station full of vulnerable children. Beverus's 4 hands trembled over the communications panel. She could refuse the assistance. Send them away. Protect the children from whatever humans did to the helpless beings they encountered. But the heat would fail in 6 hours. Food would run out in days. And 47 children sang in the common area, hoping for a miracle they did not even have names for. She typed a response with shaking fingers, knowing she might be inviting predators into a den of prey, knowing she had no other choice. Life support critical. 47 juveniles, multiple species, all minors. 1 adult administrator. Immediate assistance required. The response came quickly. Too quickly. Understood. Delta 7. Help is coming. Hold on. Evergreen Promise out. Beverus closed the communications panel and looked through the window at the children still singing their hopeful, heartbreaking songs. Help was coming. From the last species she would have ever asked. From beings the galaxy feared. From humans. She hoped she had not just doomed them all. Rita Okafor studied the distress signal data scrolling across her navigation panel and felt her chest tighten. 47 children. The message had said 47 juveniles, but her mind kept translating it back to the word that mattered. Children. Alone on a failing station. Afraid. We're going to be 10 days late. Her first officer, Yuki Tanaka, stood beside her chair, arms crossed but not argumentative. Just stating facts. The colonies are expecting us. Some of those families have not seen their relatives in 2 years. Christmas will be over by the time we arrive. Rita knew all of this. She had run the calculations 3 times. Altering course to Delta 7, rendering assistance, even if they just dropped supplies and left immediately, would add 10 days minimum to their journey. The families waiting at the colony worlds would miss their holiday reunion. The children on those worlds would wake up on Christmas morning without the presents currently sitting in Evergreen Promise's cargo hold. I know, Rita said. She looked at her crew, 8 people total, half of them traveling with their own families to the colonies for the holidays. I cannot order you to do this. The distress call is not in our designated response zone. We are a cargo hauler, not a rescue vessel. But I also cannot ignore 47 children who need help. Her engineer, David Osei, spoke up from his station. What do we know about the station? Refugee facility. Council operated, or it was before they apparently stopped operating it. Automated beacon activated when life support dropped below safe levels. The administrator said they have maybe 6 hours of heat left. Administrator is singular, Yuki observed. 1 adult and 47 children. Ritonoidid. That is what the message indicated. Silence filled the bridge. Outside the viewports, stars streaked past as Evergreen Promise maintained its course toward the colony worlds, toward families waiting, toward children who would be disappointed if their gifts arrived late. But those children had families, had homes, had full stomachs and warm beds. My daughter would never forgive me if she found out we left children to freeze in space, Yuki said quietly. She looked at Rita with dark eyes that understood impossible choices. Neither would I. David checked his panel. We are carrying surplus supplies for 3 colonies. Medical equipment, food synthesizer parts, backup power cells. We could spare enough to stabilize one station and still complete our deliveries. The Christmas supplies, Rita said. The decorations and gifts. Those are specific requests from the colony families. Are they more important than keeping children alive? David's voice held no judgment. Just another impossible question. Rita had spent 15 years hauling cargo across space. She had delivered emergency supplies to disaster zones, transported refugees to safety, once even outrun pirates to protect a shipment of vaccines. But this felt different. This felt like the universe was testing what she actually believed in versus what she claimed to believe in. "Let us vote," she said. "Everyone on this ship gets a say. We help the station and arrive late, or we maintain course and send their coordinates to proper rescue services." The vote took less than 3 minutes. It was unanimous. Rita altered course toward Refuge Station Delta 7 and tried not to think about disappointed children on colony worlds. Instead, she thought about frightened children on a dying station who had already learned that the galaxy could forget about you. 4 hours later, Delta 7 appeared on their scopes. The station was small, obviously old, with scorch marks along one side that suggested it had seen combat at some point. Several sections showed no power readings at all. The docking ring rotated slowly, maintaining minimal gravity through spin rather than gravitational generators. "That is not good," David muttered, studying the engineering readouts. "Half their systems are offline. The other half are running on backup power that should have failed weeks ago." Rita opened a communication channel. "Delta 7, this is Evergreen Promise requesting docking clearance. We have supplies and repair equipment." The response came after a long pause. The voice sounded insectoid, clicks and buzzes that the translator rendered into cautious words. "Evergreen Promise, you're cleared to dock at Port 3. Please be advised that station population consists of juveniles. Multiple species. They have been through significant trauma. Understood, Delta 7. We will be careful." The docking process was tricky. Port 3's guidance systems were malfunctioning, forcing Rita to manually align the ship. When the airlocks finally connected and equalized pressure, she stood with her crew at the boarding ramp, medical kits and emergency supplies in hand. The airlock opened into a corridor that should have been brightly lit and warm. Instead, dim emergency lighting barely penetrated the shadows, and Rita could see her breath in the cold air. The walls showed signs of poor maintenance. Panen hung loose. Wiring was exposed in places where repair attempts had been abandoned halfway, through an insectoid being stood waiting for them. For arms, chitinous armor, large compound eyes that reflected the emergency lighting with an eerie quality. The translator device attached to her thorax hummed as she spoke. "I am Administrator Beveris. You are humans." Not a question. An observation that carried weight Rita could not quite identify. "Yes, I'm Captain Rita Okafor. This is my crew. We brought supplies and repair equipment. Where are the children?" Beveris's mandibles clicked together rapidly. "They're in the common area. I must ask you to understand, many of them have never seen humans before. Your species has a certain reputation in this region of space." Rita knew what that meant. Deathworlders. Dangerous. Aggressive. All the things other species whispered about Earth and its inhabitants. "We're here to help," Rita said simply. Not to frighten anyone. Beveris studied them for a long moment. Then she gestured with 2 of her 4 arms. "Follow me, but please move slowly. Speak quietly." Some of them startled easily now. She led them through corridors that grew colder with each step. Rita noticed details that made her heart ache. Handprints at child height on the walls, multiple species visible in the different sizes and shapes. Drawings scratched into panels. A broken toy abandoned in a corner. They reached the common area, and Rita stopped breathing for a moment. 47 pairs of eyes turned toward them. Children of species Rita had never encountered before. Small furry beings huddled together for warmth. Scaled creatures with vertical pupils. Crystalline forms that barely glowed. All of them thin. All of them frightened. All of them staring at the humans with expressions that ranged from hope to terror. A small furry child, no bigger than a house cat, took one hesitant step forward. Large eyes studied Rita's face. Are you the gift bringers? The translator rendered the tiny voice as curious and painfully hopeful. Did you come because of the stories? Rita knelt down slowly, making herself smaller and less threatening. What stories, little one? The stories about beings who come when the cold season arrives, who bring gifts and remember the forgotten ones. The child's whiskers trembled. Are those stories true? Rita looked at her crew, looked at Beverus, looked back at 47 children who had learned that the universe was cold and uncaring, but who still somehow hoped for kindness. She made a decision that had nothing to do with cargo schedules or duty rosters or anything except the simple fact that children should never feel forgotten. Yes, Rita said gently. Those stories are true, and we are here now. The small furry child, who Beverus introduced as Pip, refused to leave Rita's side. Tiny paws gripped the fabric of Rita's jumpsuit as the crew began unloading supplies from Evergreen Promise. The child weighed almost nothing, all fur and bones and enormous trusting eyes that made Rita's throat tight. Yuki, start with the heat regulation systems, Rita said, keeping her voice gentle so Pip would not startle. David, assess the food synthesizers. I want to know if we can repair them or if we need to set up our backup units. Her crew moved through the station with practiced efficiency, but Rita noticed how they modified their usual quick movements. Yuki crouched down to show a group of scaled children the repair tools she carried, explaining in simple words what each one did. David let a crystalline child touch the smooth surface of a power cell, watching it glow brighter as curiosity overcame fear. The passengers from Evergreen Promise, families who had been traveling to the colonies for their own reunions, emerged from the ship carrying boxes. Children's clothing, blankets, toys that their own kids had agreed to share. Food that was safe for human consumption, but might work for other species too. We will need to test everything, Beverus said, her translator device rendering anxiety into words. Many Earth foods are toxic to non-human biology. We cannot risk, I know, David said, already setting up a portable analysis station. I will scan everything before any of the children consume it. But your synthesizers are basically dead. If we cannot repair them in the next few hours, these kids will need something to eat. A teenage Vashtor with golden eyes approached them, moving with the careful dignity of someone trying to appear brave. I am Rena. I help Administrator Beverus with the younger children. Can you truly fix the heat? It has been so cold for so long. Yuki looked up from the access panel she had opened. Exposed wiring sparked weakly inside. This is bad, she said honestly, but bad I can work with. I need 3 hours and some creative thinking, but yes, we can fix the heat. Rena's scaled tail swished once, a gesture Beverus's translator interpreted as hope mixed with disbelief. The council said they would send repair crews. They said many things, but no one came. We are here now, Yuki said simply. She pulled out a length of fiber optic cable and began splicing it into the damaged wiring with steady hands. And where I come from, we have a saying. Do not tell me it cannot be done. Just watch while I do it anyway. Rita felt Pip shiver against her side. The child was so thin. They were all so thin. She carried Pip into what served as the station's medical bay, where David had set up his analysis equipment. The room was barely functional. Diagnostic scanner offline. Medicine storage at near freezing temperatures. Supplies expired or depleted. Put me down here, little one, Rita said gently. The doctor needs to make sure you are healthy. Pip's grip tightened. You will stay. I will stay right here. I promise. David ran his scanner over Pip's small form, and Rita watched his expression shift from professional to quietly furious. Severe malnutrition, vitamin deficiencies, early signs of immune system stress from prolonged cold exposure. He scanned 3 more children and found the same patterns. They were all slowly starving, all slowly freezing. How long? Rita asked Beverus quietly, while David prepared nutrient supplements. 3 months since the last supply delivery. 2 months since the council stopped responding to our requests. 1 month since I realized we were going to die here and no one cared enough to stop it. Rita had seen suffering before. Space was vast and uncaring, and sometimes people fell through the cracks. But these were children. This was deliberate neglect. Why did they abandon you? Beveris's mandibles clicked together in what Rita had learned was distress. We are expensive. 47 children from 12 different species, all requiring specialized care and education. The Rim Wars ended, so the political value of refugee facilities decreased. Budget cuts, resource reallocation. Very reasonable explanations for letting children freeze in the dark. The bitterness in the translation was sharp enough to cut. Rita understood it. Bureaucracy could murder just as effectively as weapons, and it did so with paperwork instead of blood. Over the next 4 hours, Evergreen Promise's crew performed small miracles. Yuki got the heat regulation systems functioning at 60% capacity, enough to bring the temperature up to merely uncomfortable instead of dangerous. David identified 17 food items from their cargo that were safe for at least some of the species present and prepared the first real meal the children had eaten in weeks. The passengers set up a makeshift classroom in one of the empty cargo bays, covering the cold metal walls with colorful fabric from the Christmas decorations they had been transporting. They hung lights, the kind that blinked in cheerful patterns, and suddenly the gray, depressing space looked almost welcoming. Pip watched everything with wide eyes. "Why are you doing this?" Administrator Beveris said no one was coming. "She said we were forgotten." Rita knelt down again, meeting those enormous, trusting eyes. "On my world, we have traditions during the cold season. Different cultures celebrate different things, but they share similar ideas. No one should be alone when the universe is cold. No one should be hungry when others have food to share. And no child should ever believe they are forgotten." "But you have your own families," Pip said, with the brutal honesty only children possess. "You are missing your own celebrations to be here." "What do you get?" Rita touched one furry paw gently. "I get to see you smile. I get to know that tonight you will sleep warm and fed. That is worth more than any gift waiting for me somewhere else." Pip tilted her small head, processing this. "On your world, do the gift bringers look like you?" Sometimes. Sometimes they look very different, but they all share one thing. They show up when others need help. "Then you're gift bringers," Pip decided with the absolute certainty of childhood. "You came when no one else would." That evening, for the first time in months, the children of Delta 7 ate until they were full. The food was strange, some of it tasted odd, but it was warm and plentiful. They sat in groups, mixing species that had no business trusting each other, brought together by shared trauma and shared hope. Rena found Rita in the corridor outside the common area. The teenage Vashtor scales caught the newly restored lighting, making her look older than her 14 years. "My people have a saying," Rena said quietly. "The strongest warriors are not those who fight enemies. They are those who fight despair. You are warriors, Captain Rita. All of you." Rita looked through the window at the crew and passengers working together, at children laughing for the first time in months, at Pip curled up asleep in Yuki's lap with a full belly and a content expression. "We just did what anyone should do," Rita said. "But you're the only ones who did it," Rena replied. "That makes you different. That makes you special." Rita had no answer for that. She just watched the children, warm and fed and safe, and wondered how the galaxy could have ever decided they were not worth saving. Yuki's daughter, a 10-year-old named Amy, stood on a cargo container holding a string of lights and looking determined. Below her, a dozen alien children watched with fascination as she explained the concept of decorations. "On Earth, when the cold season comes, we put lights everywhere. It reminds us that even in the darkest time, there is still brightness, still hope." Amy spoke slowly, using simple words. She had appointed herself as ambassador to the younger children, a role she took very seriously. When the crystalline Kelfrin child stepped forward, the child's body pulsed with faint light, curiosity overcoming the dimness that had marked weeks of malnutrition and sadness. "We also glow. My people use light to communicate feelings. Happy is bright, sad is dim. Show me happy," Amy said with a grin. Wind concentrated, and suddenly the child's crystalline form blazed with rainbow light that reflected off every surface in the cargo bay. The other children gasped, delighted. when it had not glowed that brightly in months. That is beautiful. Amy clapped her hands together. Can you do it again when we hang the lights? You could make them even prettier. Within an hour, the cargo bay had transformed. Human Christmas lights hung from ceiling beams, their steady glow mixing with wind's pulsing radiance. Scaled Vashtor children used their sharp claws to cut paper into delicate snowflake patterns. Furry Quillen children, including Pip, wove strips of colored fabric together using a technique from their homeworld. Every species contributed something unique, creating decorations that belonged to no single culture, but instead to all of them. Rita discovered empty storage cubbies above each child's sleeping pod. They were small compartments, just large enough for personal items. But every single one was empty. The children had arrived at Delta 7 with nothing, and in the months since, they had received nothing an idea formed. She gathered her crew and the passengers from Evergreen Promise. We have fabric in the cargo hold. Spare material for repairs. Can we make stockings? David looked confused. Stockings? Like for feet? No, Christmas stockings. You hang them up, and people put small gifts inside. Surprises. Things to make you smile. Yuki understood immediately. We have the fabric. We have sewing equipment for sale repairs. But what do we put inside them? We already gave away most of the gifts we were transporting. Rita thought about this. Anything small. Anything that shows we were thinking of them. A piece of candy. A small toy. A drawing. It does not have to be expensive. It just has to be thoughtful. The passengers embraced the project with enthusiasm. Parents who had been frustrated about the delay now found purpose in creating something meaningful. They cut fabric into stocking shapes, personalizing each one. Pip got a stocking with crudely stitched stars. Rena received one with a geometric pattern that mimicked Vashtor scale designs. Wynn's stocking incorporated a clear panel so light could shine through. Pip found Rita in the corridor and tugged on her sleeve. What goes inside stockings? Rita knelt down, which was becoming her default position around the small Quillen child. Surprises. Small things that remind you someone cares about you. Small things that make you happy. But what if we do not have anything to give back? Pip's whiskers drooped with worry. You are giving us so much. Heat and food and these beautiful decorations. What do we give you? The question hit Rita harder than she expected. You do not have to give us anything, little one. But that is not fair. Giving should go both ways. That is what Rena says. Balance. Rita considered this. You already gave us something. You gave us purpose. You reminded us why the hard work matters. That is a gift more valuable than you know. Pip did not look convinced, but was distracted when Amy called her over to help hang more decorations. The transformation continued over the next 2 days. The crew worked 12-hour shifts repairing systems, pushing the station's functionality from critical failure to merely problematic. They could not fix everything. Some damage was too extensive, some parts too specialized. But they got the heat working at 70%. They got the food synthesizers producing basic nutrition. They got the water recycling systems functional enough that children could actually bathe in warm water for the first time in months. And they decorated. Oh, how they decorated. Every corridor gained some splash of color. Every common area received lights and handmade ornaments. The children threw themselves into the project with desperate enthusiasm, as if creating beauty could ward off the gray despair that had settled over Delta 7 like dust. Beverus watched everything with her compound eyes, mandibles clicking in what Rita had learned to recognize as amazement. I do not understand your species. You're losing time, losing money, missing your own celebrations. But you act as if this is where you want to be. Rita was helping Pip hang a stocking above her sleeping pod. This is where we need to be. The rest can wait. But why? These children are not your responsibility. They are not even your species. Rita turned to face the administrator. Does that matter? They are children. They are afraid. They are alone. That is all I need to know. Beverus's translator struggled with her response. Clicks and buzzes that did not translate cleanly. Finally, your world must be very different from the council worlds. We would never do this. Not for strangers. Not for being so different from ourselves. Then maybe, Rita said gently, That is why you are civilized and we are death worlders. We have not learned yet that some beings do not deserve help. On the third day, a proximity alarm sounded. A ship had entered the system. Beverus checked the identification codes, and her entire body went rigid with tension. Council inspection vessel. They are responding to the same distress signal that brought you here. Rita felt her stomach drop. Is that a problem? It could be. Council inspectors do not appreciate unauthorized interventions. They have regulations about who can provide aid to council facilities. You are not on the approved list. We saved their lives. Yes, but you did it without permission. And council bureaucrats care more about proper procedure than proper outcomes. Rita looked through the window at children hanging decorations, laughing, glowing, finally acting like children instead of refugees awaiting death. Then she looked at her crew, at the passengers who had sacrificed their holiday plans to help strangers. Let them come, Rita said quietly. We did the right thing. I will not apologize for that. The council vessel docked an hour later. The inspector who boarded Delta 7 was a Margolian named Dravith, tall and imposing with skin that shifted colors based on mood. Currently, it displayed shades of official disapproval. Who authorized this intervention? His voice carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed. This facility is under council jurisdiction. Your presence here violates multiple regulations regarding unauthorized aid to refugee populations. Rita stepped forward, keeping her voice calm. We responded to a distress call. That is not a violation. That is basic decency. You are not a registered humanitarian vessel. You are a cargo hauler. You should have reported the situation and continued on your route. While 47 children froze to death waiting for someone official to care, Dravith's skin shifted through several colors rapidly. Anger, confusion, something else Rita could not identify. You do not understand the complexity of the situation. These facilities require specialized management. You cannot just, we just did, Rita said simply. And if that violates your regulations, then your regulations are wrong. Behind them, Pip stepped forward, still holding a paper snowflake she had been cutting. The small Quillen looked up at the towering inspector with enormous eyes. They came when you did not. They fed us when you let us starve. They are our family now. Other children emerged from the decorated common areas, forming a protective circle around Rita and her crew. Rena translated, her voice carrying words in a dozen languages that all said the same thing, that we choose them. We choose the humans who showed up over the council that forgot us. Inspector Dravith looked at the children, at the decorations, at the repaired systems, at the transform station. His skin shifted again, this time to colors Rita did not recognize. I need to file a report, he said finally. This is highly irregular. Inspector Dravith's report traveled through Galactic Council networks faster than anyone expected. Within 18 hours, it had reached populations across a dozen member worlds. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Rita sat in Delta 7's control room watching news feeds with Beverus. Every channel showed the same images. Alien children in human-made stockings. Decorations created from cargo supplies. A crystalline child glowing with happiness. A furry child asleep in a human woman's lap. The headlines were brutal. Council abandons orphans while humans intervene. Deathworlders show compassion civilized species could not. 47 children ask, why did strangers care more than our own government? This is bad for the council. Beverus said, her translator device rendering something that sounded like satisfaction mixed with concern. They did not expect anyone to notice one small station. They did not expect humans. Rita's communication panel buzzed with incoming messages. Dozens of them. She read through them quickly, her eyes widening with each one. Beverus, I am getting adoption requests. Human families asking if the children need permanent homes. Hundreds of them. The administrator's mandibles clicked rapidly. Adoption? Across species lines? Why not? Family is not about biology. It is about who shows up when you need them. More messages arrived. Earth's diplomatic corps requesting formal protocols. Human aid organizations offering supplies and funding. News networks wanting interviews. but also messages from other council species, quietly ashamed, offering help now that their populations were watching. Yuki entered the control room holding a datapad. Captain, you need to see this. It is trending across the entire galactic network. Beings from 30 different species are demanding the Council explain why they stopped supporting refugee facilities. The political pressure mounted by the hour. Council representatives scrambled to explain budget cuts and resource allocation and all the reasonable-sounding excuses that let children starve while bureaucrats congratulated themselves on fiscal responsibility. But now the galaxy was watching. Now the excuses sounded exactly like what they were. Abandonment dressed up in official language. Rita found Rena in the common area helping younger children practice reading. The teenager looked up as Rita approached. You're leaving soon, yes? Your ship must continue to the colonies. Yes, but I want to talk to you about something first. Earth is offering adoption opportunities. Families who want to provide homes for you and the others. Real homes, with people who care. Rena's golden eyes studied Rita's face. You would take us away from each other? Separate us after we have only each other? No, never. We would keep you together if that is what you want. But there are also other options. The Council is pledging to restore full support to Delta 7. They are too embarrassed to do anything else now. You could stay here. Or there is a third option. What option? Rita pulled up a proposal on her datapad. My company, the freight collective that operates Evergreen Promise, they want to partner with the Council to transform Delta 7 into a permanent educational facility. Bever stays as administrator. Human staff rotate through to help. You all stay together, receive proper education and care. And human families act as host families. You could visit, spend holidays with them. Have people who care about you specifically, not just as statistics in a budget report. Rena was quiet for a long moment. You would do this? Create a partnership just for us. You matter. All of you matter. What happened here? The Council forgetting you. That cannot happen again. We want to make sure it does not. Tears formed in Rena's golden eyes. Rita had not known Vastrika cry. For months, I told the little ones that someone would come. I lied to them because the truth was too horrible. That we meant nothing to anyone. That the galaxy would let us die without noticing. But you came. You proved me right accidentally. Someone did come. Not accidentally, Rita said gently. We came because you deserved help. You always deserved help. That evening, Bevers called a meeting with the older children. They discussed the options. Adoption into human families. Staying at Delta 7 with restored council support. The new partnership proposal. The younger children did not fully understand all the implications, but they understood one thing clearly. Can Rita come back? Pip asked, gripping Rita's hand with tiny paws. Can we see you again? Yes, little one. The partnership means Evergreen Promise will make regular supply runs here. You will see me and my crew often. We are not disappearing. We are not abandoning you. Promise? I promise. The children voted. 47 voices, 12 species, 1 decision. They would stay together at Delta 7. They would accept the partnership. They would let human families be part of their lives without being separated from each other. Bevers made the announcement official, sending responses to Earth's diplomatic corps and the council representatives who were falling over themselves to appear helpful now that everyone was watching. I never thought I would say this, Bevers told Rita privately. But I'm grateful your species has such a terrible reputation. If you were just another civilized species, you would have followed regulations and left us to die properly. Instead, you ignored the rules and saved lives improperly. Your barbaric, Deathworlder persistence saved 47 children the civilized galaxy forgot. Ritos Mumil. We are not barbaric. We just refuse to accept that some situations are hopeless. We see a problem, we fix it, even if we are not supposed to. Even if it is inconvenient. Even if it violates regulations. That is what makes you dangerous, Bevers said. You are dangerous to despair. Dangerous to bureaucracy. Dangerous to all the systems that run on apathy and call it efficiency. The next day, Rita began preparations for departure. The Evergreen Promise needed to continue to the colonies, now 12 days late. The families that would be upset, but Rita had sent messages explaining why. Most understood. Some were angry. Rita accepted both responses as fair. The children gathered at the docking port to say goodbye. Pip clung to Rita's leg, crying softly. "You promised you would come back." "And I keep my promises," Rita said, kneeling down one last time. "You will see me again in 3 months. We will bring more supplies, more decorations, maybe some new books for Rena's library project. But little one, you need to let me go now so I can leave and then come back." Pip nodded, but did not release her grip immediately. Finally, Rena gently pulled the small Quillen away. "Let the gift bringers go, Pip. They have other people who need them too. But they will return. They promised." Rita boarded her ship with her crew, all of them looking back at the children waving from the observation windows. Delta 7 no longer looked like a dying station. It looked alive, colorful, full of hope instead of despair. As Evergreen Promise undocked and set course for the colonies, Yuki sat beside Rita on the bridge. "We are still 12 days late. The company is going to have complaints." "Let them complain," Rita said. "We did something that mattered. We saved 47 lives. We showed them the universe is not completely cold and uncaring. That is worth more than any delivery schedule." Her communication panel chimed. A message from Delta 7. Rita opened it and smiled that IT was a video. 47 children, all species mixed together, singing a song Amy had taught them. A simple Earth holiday song about joy and hope and family. They sang badly, the translation barely working, but they sang with enthusiasm. And in the background, hanging above their sleeping pods, were stockings. Empty now, but saved carefully, waiting for the gift bringers to return. 6 months passed like water through fingers, each day bringing small changes to Delta 7 that accumulated into transformation. The station no longer ran on failing systems and desperate hope. Council funding had been restored with public pledges of permanent support. Human technical staff rotated through on 3-month assignments, teaching Beverus and her growing administrative team how to maintain the complex systems. The food synthesizers produced varied, nutritious meals. The heat worked consistently. Medical supplies were stocked and current. But more importantly, the children thrived. Pip had gained weight, her fur now glossy instead of dull. She spent her mornings in class learning mathematics from a human teacher named Paolo, and her afternoons writing messages to Rita on the communication system. Every single day, without fail, Pip sent at least one message. Sometimes just a few words. Sometimes long, rambling stories about what she learned or who she played with. Rita answered every single one. Rena had taken on more responsibilities, working with Beverus to coordinate educational programs for the different species. At 15 now, she spoke 4 languages fluently and was learning 3 more. She had also started a project interviewing each child about their memories from before Delta 7, preserving their stories and cultures. Wind glowed constantly now, the crystalline Kelthrin's natural brightness restored by proper nutrition and happiness. The child had discovered a talent for creating light sculptures, using internal luminescence to cast patterns on walls that told stories without words. Galleries across council space had started requesting exhibitions. But despite all the improvements, despite the stability and safety, the children counted days on a calendar in the common area. Big red marks crossing off each date, counting down to one specific day, December 23rd. The day Evergreen Promise was scheduled to return. Rita stood on the bridge of her cargo hauler, reviewing the manifest for the 100th time. Food supplies, educational materials, medical equipment, repair parts, and carefully packed in a climate-controlled cargo bay, gifts. Hundreds of them. Her crew had spent months collecting items, working with human families who had adopted the Delta 7 children as pen pals and distant family members. "We're going to be late to the colonies again," Yuki said with a smile that showed she did not care at all. "This is becoming a pattern." "A good pattern," Rita replied. She checked the chronometer. 3 hours until we dock. "Is everything ready?" "Everything is ready. David has been cooking for 2 days straight. Amy has wrapped so many presents her fingers have blisters. And I personally verified every single gift to make sure it is appropriate for the species receiving it. Rito noidit. This return visit felt different from the emergency rescue 6 months ago. This was not about saving lives from immediate danger. This was about proving that some promises get kept, that some connections matter enough to maintain across space and time. Delta 7 appeared on the view screen, and Rita's chest tightened with something that felt like coming home. The station had visible changes. New solar panels, fresh paint on the docking rings, lights that glowed steadily instead of flickering. But what struck her most was the banner hanging across the main observation window. Welcome home, gift bringers, in 12 different languages, handwritten by the children. The docking procedure went smoothly this time. No malfunctioning systems or emergency repairs needed. The airlock opened to reveal Beverus waiting, her mandibles clicking in what Rita now recognized as happiness. Welcome back, Captain Okafor. You are precisely on time, as promised. I keep my promises, Rita said. Then she looked past the administrator to see 47 children trying very hard to wait patiently and failing completely. Rito. Pip's voice carried above everyone else's as the small Quillen launched herself forward, crashing into Rita's legs with enough force to nearly knock her over. You came back. You really came back. Of course I came back, Rita said, kneeling to hug the furry child properly. I said I would, didn't I? The other children surged forward, not quite mobbing, but definitely surrounding the human crew with enthusiasm. Wind glowed so brightly the corridor turned into a rainbow of reflected light. Rena hung back slightly, trying to maintain teenage dignity, but Rita saw the scaled girl's tail swishing with barely contained excitement. We prepared a celebration, Beverus announced. The children have been planning for weeks. They insisted on doing everything themselves. The common area had been transformed. Decorations from 6 months ago still hung, carefully preserved, but new additions showed the children's growing confidence. Wind's light sculptures cast moving patterns across walls. Pip and the other Quillen children had woven an enormous wall hanging depicting the evergreen promise approaching Delta 7. Rena had organized a performance, different species presenting songs and stories from their cultures. But first, gifts at Rita's crew unloaded boxes while the children vibrated with anticipation. Each child received multiple packages, some from Rita's crew, some from human families across Earth who had learned about Delta 7 and wanted to help. Educational toys, art supplies, books translated into their languages, clothing in sizes that actually fit. And for each child, one special personalized gift chosen specifically for them. Pip unwrapped a stuffed animal that looked like a Quillen adult, soft and huggable. The small child clutched it with tears streaming down her furry face. It looks like my mother, before the war. How did you know? Rita knelt beside her. Rena's interview project. She mentioned that you missed having something soft to hold at night, something that reminded you of home. Wynn received a portable holographic projector that could record and display light sculptures, preserving the child's art permanently. Rena got an entire library of books about different cultures, plus a journal bound in real leather with her name engraved on the cover. The celebration continued for hours. David's cooking was devoured enthusiastically. Amy taught new songs. The children performed their prepared presentations with pride. And through it all, Rita watched them laugh and play and act like children instead of refugees. Beverus found Rita in a quiet moment, watching Pip show her stuffed animal to anyone who would look. You did this, the administrator said quietly. 6 months ago, these children had forgotten how to hope. Now look at them. You did this too, Rita replied. You kept them alive until help could arrive. You never gave up on them. But I would have failed without you. The council would have let us die with proper procedures and filed the appropriate reports. Your species does not think that way. You see a problem and you fix it, regulations be damned. Rito smiled. We're Deathworlders. We're too stubborn to accept that some situations are hopeless. No, Beverus said. You are family. That is what the children call you now. Not gift bringers. Not rescuers. Family. As the celebration wound down and children started drifting toward their sleeping pods, full and happy and safe, Pip tugged on Rita's sleeve one more time. You're coming back again, right? In 3 more months? Yes, little one. And the time after that? Yes. And after that, and after that, and after that. Rita picked up the small Quillen, hugging her close. For as long as you want us to. We're family now. Family doesn't abandon each other. Pip buried her face in Rita's shoulder. Good. Because I love you. Rita's throat tightened. I love you too, little one. That night, as Evergreen Promise prepared to depart, Rita stood at the observation window, looking back at Delta 7. The station glowed with lights and life. Inside, 47 children slept warm and fed and safe, their stockings already hung for the next visit. She thought about the colonies that were once again receiving their supplies late, about the company complaints and schedule disruptions, about all the inconveniences created by caring about strangers, and she decided that some inconveniences were worth it. Yuki joined her at the window. Same time next quarter? Rito noidit. Same time next quarter. And the quarter after that. For as long as they need us. Or want us. Yuki corrected gently. Or want us, Rita agreed. The ship turned toward the stars, carrying crew members who had learned that sometimes the most important cargo you deliver is not in the hold at all. Sometimes it is hope. Sometimes it is love. Sometimes it is simply the message that someone, somewhere, remembers you exist and believes you matter. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get that message back from 47 children who taught you that family is not about species or biology or logic. That IT is about who shows up when the universe is cold. That IT is about who keeps their promises. That IT is about who refuses to let anyone be forgotten. Rita logged her captain's report with simple words. Delta 7 visit completed. All children thriving. Scheduled return in 3 months. This is the most important route we fly. And in the common area of a distant station, 47 stockings hung above 47 sleeping pods, waiting to be filled again, physical proof that some miracles are not magic at all. They're just people who care enough to show up.